Welcome, everyone. Kentucky Sports Radio, Tuesday, March the 11th. I'm Matt Jones here in studio in Lexington. You can give a shout on the Clark's Pump and Shop phone line. We will we'll close the phones for right now, but we will open them later. 859-280-2287. A-Vision Auto Glass text machine is 772-774-5254 in this edition. Sponsored by the TJ Smith Law Office. If you call TJ, he'll make them pay. We are happy to have in studio. We rarely, Ryan, start things off with an interview. I can't think of how many shows that's ever happened ever. Can you?
No, because you like to talk, so we let you talk.
We do. We usually like to talk for a minute, but it's pro day for UK football. So Mark Stoops was nice enough before March Madness gets rolling to join us in here. Right off the top, Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Good to be in studio. Good to come talk with you guys. I know this is a little late for us. Usually we
usually do it early, but you had surgery. Is that right?
I did have surgery. Yeah, I had to have ankle surgery, and I'm doing much better. It feels much better. However, today I woke up and it's a little sore, but hey, I'll work through it.
So you had to have surgery, right after the season, wasn't it?
I did.
Yeah. You were kind of limping around a little bit there?
I definitely was. It's just wear and tear on the ankle. There wasn't any one injury. I had to have knee replacement surgery.
You're getting old.
Wow, man, I tell you. Yeah.
It adds up.
Well, you and I, we were all just talking about my son and whether he's going to play college ball and he's not, and I'm totally okay with that. I mean, I'm not the biggest guy, and so the body takes its wear and tear. And ankle was next, so I had to have ankle replacement surgery. That does not happen too often.
I don't think I've ever heard of that. Yeah. Have you? No. Have you ever heard that?
No,
Ryan?
I've never heard that before.
Never heard of that. So ankle replacement. Well, I hope you're doing well. And,
I'm doing better.
Thank you for taking the time. Spring practice, started yesterday?
It did.
Yep. And how's it going? You liking the group?
I definitely do. I think, hey, let's be honest. You've heard me talk many times. I'm never going to come on here and think, oh, the sky's falling. But I love the group. You and I will get into the weeds here. We'll talk about many things. Obviously, I was not very happy with the way the year was. Who was? Nobody that cares about the Cats. So things didn't go well. So you had to take a deep dive, a deep look at everything in the program again and strip it all down and take a good hard look at the things, that we've done well over the years. Where did we fall short last year? Why? How do we get better? How do we coach better? And put our guys in position to be successful. How do we get into the leadership factors and bring that out of the team and grow in that area? And then how do you build the roster? And so I love the roster for this year. Let's put that.
Well, let's talk. I want to kind of do this in two parts.
Yeah.
Maybe start with last year, kind of put it to bed, and then talk about what's upcoming.
Sure.
Let's start. Let's start with last year. It was obviously a year that was disappointing for a lot of fans. I'm sure it was disappointing for you as well. When you look back on that year last year, and you say to yourself, "Okay, it did not go how we wanted to go." Why do you think that happened? Why do you think it was? I think Mitch Barnhart said a 1-year blip. But if that is what it is, why do you think it happened?
Well, I think there's many reasons, that it happened. And, I think that's a very broad-based question right there. I mean, obviously, there's many factors that go into it. Clearly, and I'm not just saying this. I know people get tired of it. After being here 12 years, 13 years talking to you, it falls on my shoulders and all that. People are like, blah, blah, blah. I understand. But it truly is. You have to look at why that happened. I mean, it starts with myself and making sure the leadership was what we needed it to be, with myself, with our staff, with strength and conditioning, with nutrition, X's and O's, everything, that we do in the organization and making sure we're all on the same page. We're, pushing our players to the best of their abilities.
How do you think that might have fallen short last year?
Well, I just think it starts with us, right? It starts with us. And so we, like one of the things we did when we got back together as a staff and brought everybody in a room, we got off site and put us in a big, circular table and, went at it as far as having meetings for 6-8 hours, however long it takes just to, hear from every department. And the things, again, where we've done well, where we fell short, why, And there's a lot of things that we could have done better, and we have to look at those things. Everything from X's and O's, leadership, accountability, strength and conditioning, nutrition, anything. And you've heard this saying, many years. If you do the little things, the big things aren't so big, right? And last year, the little things were big.
Well, but I think for fans, there would be some value in specifics. I mean, I think a lot of fans they hear you say that and say take responsibility. But give us some examples of, like, when you got in that room with 8 hours and you said, okay, this needs to be better than that. Like, what are some examples of that?
Well, I think, again, hear me when I say this, because if I say any one thing in particular, one thing I did learn last year, when you lose and everybody, and it's bad, whatever I say gets absolutely ripped apart, right? I have to be a little bit broad stroke there. You can understand that.
But I also think fans want to hear, like, our fans, SEC fans in general, they know football. Yeah. And they want to hear, I do think they want to hear more than a broad stroke of what could have been better. Let's just take discipline. Did you feel like the discipline was where it needed to be?
I mean, no. How can I say it was? Okay. But I don't need that to be. You can understand my point of view, saying Mark Stoops said discipline was the absolute problem. That was one of many problems, right? And when I say discipline, there's different layers of that, right? It's not like our team went rogue, and that's never going to happen under my watch. Was it is dialed in as we need it to be? Clearly not. Clearly not. And I understand that. I take responsibility for that. That doesn't mean everything was all. I loved our team. Was it where we wanted to be? No, absolutely not. We didn't coach good enough. We didn't play good enough. We weren't disciplined enough. We weren't physical enough. There's a lot of things. And so that is part of it. That I have to look at. And so, again, if you let a little thing, slip by, or if things go unchecked, then it can become a big thing.
Do you think some of that happened? Do you think some of that happened? Do you think there was some there was some chatter that would come out from the just people around the program that said, maybe there's not been as much attention to be on time, do your reps, do all these things, and that maybe some things were let to slip. Is that fair or no?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
I have to take that kind of criticism. And when things unravel like they did, and you have a season like you did, you have to accept all that. And again, do I think it was completely rogue and things were? No, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen under my teams. Was it as dialed in or as tidy as it needed to be? Clearly not. The results weren't there, and little things became big things. And so, that can't happen.
There was obviously struggles with let's just start with offense, on the offensive line. Now, some of that may have been like personnel. Were there other? I mean, when did you realize you had an offensive line problem? It clearly wasn't what it has been a lot of the time you were at UK.
Yeah, I think it was game 2. You know what I mean? When we go in there and have the struggles that we had, I think we didn't anticipate that, I think Coach Bush adjusted after that. You know what I mean? To some extent. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. I mean, if you get behind, if you're getting in predictable pass, you've heard me talk about this a lot. Certainly, if it's not a strength and you're not holding up, and so I think we went into the season, trying to get the depth that we needed, the continuity that I haven't had on the offensive side, and with the offensive line and with the offensive coordinator, clearly caught up to us, at a point. And again, that's not fun. That's not good to go through. And
some of that was beyond. I mean, I know you didn't think you'd have that turnover at offensive coordinator. You went and you got basically a completely new offensive line. Mm. And that may be something that just happens a lot in the portal era. Do you think this group will meld and has a talent level maybe that last year's group didn't? I mean, do you feel better about that position? Because it felt like we were a number of steps back last year.
Fair. Agree. I think we're better definitely better. One thing that was a point of emphasis, we had to keep our good players our good young guys in place. Malachi, Abba, we had to keep the Jagger, and he's not young, but the guys we had inside, Jalen Farmer, we had to keep the nucleus of the good players we had, keep them here, and then add to it. And in particular, tackle. We had to get better at tackle. And we certainly did that. We certainly addressed that issue, and we had to. I mean,
you guys went a different way, at least from an outsider's perspective in the portal, whereas I think a lot of the times in the past you'd gone and gotten guys in big programs maybe didn't play as much as they'd like, et cetera. Felt like you went and got maybe mid-level program, but guys who had performed, started a lot of games. Was that a change in philosophy at all?
It was. But I think finding the right guys to come in and fit in our culture, fit and play for us that had the physical attributes that we clearly have to have, but also socially, the way they fit in, the way they adapt to our program was certainly important. I think I don't know how much you've really dove into the weeds, and I really don't want to get into too much, but I mean, with the changing landscape, we've all talked about that for 3 years. It is what it is. But this last recruiting cycle for football, it'll go through that one more recruiting cycle for basketball, from what my understanding is. Come July 1, I think they're trying to put some guardrails around this thing. And so this last recruiting cycle, you had to make a move, or you were going to get completely left.
Do you feel like Kentucky going forward? I mean, when I hear fans, I asked fans yesterday, I was like, all right, what questions do you want me to ask Mark Stoops? And the one that came up the most was, we're entering a new era. I say this all the time. Like, this is a completely new era of college sports. Coaching the X's and O's may still be the same, but the off-the-field stuff's completely different. Do you feel like UK and Mark Stoops specifically do you feel like you're ready? Do you enjoy, whether you enjoy it or not, are you ready for this new era? Is Kentucky ready for this new era because it's a different sport in a lot of ways?
Absolutely. I think the last 3 seasons have been absolutely unequivocally the most challenging. At this point, come July 1, we're supposed to have some guardrails around this thing. True, authentic name, image, and likeness. If a young man can earn money, with his name, image, and likeness, by all means, he should be able to do that and go do that. The era of just truly donors pouring $20, $30 million into rosters and just paying for play, that's been the last 3 years. That's gone. Okay, so again, this has to happen now. The judge has to rule on it, and in April.
That happens in April, yeah.
That has to happen, and, we have to actually get this third-party entity that can, have some teeth and monitor, whether this is a true, authentic NIL deal or not. Otherwise, it's just who's going to pour the most money into it.
But is Kentucky in that system? Do you feel like Kentucky can be competitive? Are you eager? I guess it's a different way to put it. Are you eager to play in this system? Because I kind of wonder, if you're not, if coaches aren't, is it going to work for them? Are you ready to sort of go to war with these guys on this?
100%.
Okay.
We went to battle this year. I do love the team that I put together. Okay. We will see. We went through one spring practice. I love, and I'm not just saying this is not lip service. I love the way they've attacked the offseason. Coming in and attacking the weight room, having the accountability, having the discipline, having the work ethic, attacking the day, truly, watching all their weights, making sure everything's, buttoned up, so to speak. I feel like it's been a great winter. Guys have attacked it. We went into our fourth quarter drills, which we, basically challenge them physically and mentally and do some drills with them early in the morning. They did that, they attacked that. We started spring ball. We're off to the right start. I hear you. I agree with you. There's no defense on some of the things, specifically or broad strokes, however you want to say it. Definitely some things needed to be readdressed. And I think, we are off to the right start. I think we attacked this portal I think if you go back, if you look at it in a segment, we all hope as coaches, the most challenging time in our history has been the last 3 years. We hope we can move forward and attack it. And yeah, we have the rev share. If that's then we'll be on an equal playing field with everybody if it works that way.
We're going to take a break. Be right back. Got more questions for Mark Stoops. We're also going to get ready. The SEC tournament is coming. This is Kentucky Sports Radio. It is Kentucky Sports Radio. 859-280-2287 on the text machine. Let me give some quick hitters to you that people want to ask. One person writes, I want to ask Mark, do we have a general manager? You hear people getting hired as general manager for the football team. Is there an individual with that role at Kentucky?
Yeah, we don't. It's not under that title, but it's Eddie Gran.
So Eddie Gran is kind of our general manager.
Eddie works with me, works with the budget. He wears many hats. He helps. What he's really worked hard at the last 3 years is raising the money that we've needed to pay some of these players. And
so the extent that so we don't have that as a title, but for practical purposes, that's him.
Yeah, that's
okay.
correct.
I don't know that people have known that. I had heard that.
Yeah.
So when you're I assume that's an all year job of watching players, trying to figure out where you're going to go. Who makes the kind of final decision of, all right, this is because I know you don't have time to watch all these. Who we're going to take that guy instead of this guy?
So, Eddie's the general manager as far as helping me, prepare the budget, raise money, and then, decide where we're going to allocate those funds. And then we have a personnel department as well, where the guys in there, we have many people in there. Crew of people, and they're watching players all year long.
So
they watch high school and college.
Okay, so there are people whose job is to look at who's out there on the scene.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then it's like, let's say, okay, we need a tackle.
So it's the final choice of there's this kid from Northern Illinois, and then there's this kid from Colorado State. We're going to take the Northern Illinois kid. Is that you? Who makes that call?
We make that call as a group. I mean, obviously, if it's an offensive lineman, Eric Wolford, Eddie Gran, offensive coordinator, myself. I will say this, with the free agent market in football this last cycle and the cycle before, it was kind of out of control. You know what I mean? What the value was and what people were going. It's like free agency in football right now. I mean, when you have 85 free agents on a football team, things can get out of hand in a hurry.
So let me ask you about another person here writes, has Mark ever considered having a clock management person? I will say from my, and I'm a big fan of yours. My one criticism over the years of your coaching has been the clock management. Sometimes I feel like there's just somebody just to go, hey, if we call a timeout here, it'll be 35 seconds, just literally math. Do you have someone in your ear giving you that information during the game?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I have absolutely, unequivocally, go to the analytics on that, on when to call a timeout, when not to, and all those things, and when to go.
So how does that work on game day? Is there someone going, okay, Mark, here?
Yeah. I'm far ahead of it. When we're going into the series, whether we're going on offense or defense, he'll be right in my ear saying, do not take one until the 4-minute mark.
Okay.
And so and so at that point, I go directly by analytics.
What about like decisions on punt, no punt? When you were here early, it always felt like Mark Stoops was going to punt. Sometimes I would gosh, I wish they would go for it. Mark Stoops is going to punt. In the last couple of years, it seemed like that's been more. I think you've made decisions. Sometimes I've heard you after games go, I wish I hadn't done that. Like, how do you decide in a do we go for it or not situation?
I do listen to the analytics first.
Okay.
And I will look at those. I think you have to look at what, who you are a little bit too. What do you think you can do? Who you're playing, what are their strengths, what are your strengths? Where is that? I accept that. I mean, there's going to be that criticism. I don't take offense to that. You know what I mean? Go for it on fourth or not. You know what I mean?
Do you consider yourself aggressive, conservative? Like, how do you consider yourself as a coach?
I play things usually by the book, for the most part. I think the big one last year was the Georgia game. And it's really fair, criticism. I could also sit here and say we were in that game because of
yeah.
Well, we were in that game because of defense and field position.
Mm-hmm. Do you so
yeah.
fans will say to me, how does this, and what's your answer to this? How does the same team that played Georgia to the final play, wins at Ole Miss, plays Texas really well a little bit on the road for a good part of that game, then have the results against Vandy, the kind of way it fell apart against Louisville? Like, how did you, just as a coach, how did you explain beating Ole Miss on the road and then losing to Auburn at home? I mean, like, how did you explain yourself to that?
Auburn at home, I mean.
Or just in general. There was wildly inconsistent results.
Fair criticism. I think, you go play. I've said this for years. I think people sometimes latch onto it, sometimes you don't. When you play people in this league, you see weird stuff all the time. It is extremely taxing on our players mentally and physically. Where you hit something, where you're playing, where you're at right there, what your headspace is, what you're like physically, factors into it. I can't always see that coming. You try to head things off. You try to make sure you're ahead of things. You look at Vandy, and they had a really good year. They brought in a quarterback that had a great spark. They brought in some players that were used to that system. They played, extremely hard. We made – that is a game that we brought up earlier, the discipline and the problems. I mean, I had remarkable players for me making incredible mistakes early in that game. And, that's hard. That's hard. There's no excuse for it. You know what I mean? We should have scored the first 3 times we had the ball. And, that we didn't do it.
Just didn't happen.
And then the Louisville game, I think by that time, I don't know. It's indefensible. We've had a really good run.
Yeah.
But our players understand the importance of it. We embrace it. We embrace that challenge. We were, hanging. We didn't play very good.
30 seconds, real quick.
And
do you want that game to keep going if you go to a 9-game SEC schedule?
Yeah, I do.
You want to keep playing?
I do. I think it'll be a real challenge, but I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that, Ryan.
Me too.
Because I want to keep playing Louisville. I know. I understand why they may not do it, but I want them to do it. All right, we'll take a break. Sports Radio. Let's talk for a second about this year with Mark Stoops. All right, so I was saying I'm not sure there'll be a Kentucky football team that we know less about as fans. So tell me about the quarterback position. You're going to have Zach Calzada.
Yep.
You got Cutter. How do you expect that to go? Do you go into spring practice saying, I think this will be our guy? And if so, who would it be?
No, I think obviously it's an open competition. Getting back to, what we opened with and you have to, when you go through a year like that, you have to challenge every player and say, you're coming in here and you're going to earn your position, right? No entitlement whatsoever. Everything's going to be earned. Nothing's given. And we have to get back to that. That's the way it's always been. Again, we address some of the issues that I take full responsibility for, but that can't be like that going forward. Nobody's going to be given anything. They better go win the job. And so
do you think in the process of getting players you had to promise stuff before that you just decide you're not going to do that anymore?
Well, I don't think, yes, you in a way they feel like there's an open door, which there is. Anything time I've told a player this, you have a great opportunity.
Okay.
And so if you go to the quarterback position, you have Cutter coming back, who we have great faith in. But, let's be honest, that was the only one on campus. Bo Allen decided to come back. We love that, just, to have that depth and experience and a guy like that. But there wasn't much on campus, right? We were bringing in 2 freshmen. So you bring in Zach Calzada. He's a 6-year guy. So I love that experience of that. Here's a guy that's played a lot of football. You go to the portal, if you go back a little bit of history, we took a shot on Will Levis, home run, right?
Yeah.
But didn't have much experience. Last year with Brock, we brought Brock in, didn't have that much experience. Maybe, he could have played better, but maybe I could have done a better job. I take my responsibility. I've never put that on Brock, right? We talked about O-line issues. We talked about coaching. You know what I mean? That's all of us. But it could have been better. With Zach, you see a guy that's played a ton of football. So I like that part of it.
But in spring, are they both taking QB1 reps?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be honest, I made this, with what little media appearances I've made so far, talking about spring, and I will throughout the spring. I really want to stay away from it. I don't mind talking about it a little bit and all that, because I know you have a lot of listeners that care, but right now I want to make everybody earn it. I want to talk about like the position, the quarterback position. You know what I mean? They need to be a great leader. I love the arm talent of both of those guys. I mean, they could rip it. Both of them could throw the heck out of the football. Both of them are passionate about it. Both of them have leadership skills. And Bo Allen gives me a great third, because he came back. To me, his arm is much fresh, strong and fresh again. I think Bo's the type of guy when he first got here during COVID. I think the guy worked so hard. You know what I mean? He set himself back a little bit. But he's back to full strength and a guy that I believe in. And so I just feel like as a room, and then the 2 freshman guys that we'll bring along. But I think as a room, I love it, and I love the top 2 guys.
Wide receiver, you had 2 of the more explosive players we've seen here in a long time in Barryon and Dane. They ended up leaving. So what do you feel good about where you are at that position? I mean, it's hard to replace guys like that, but what's the game plan?
Well, I think once again, with bring Jamori Macklin back because he played so well late in the season last year. And again, I think that's an area where if there's some criticism, it's like, you had those 2 guys outside. You kept on waiting, you know what I mean, for them to do things, and they did. Certainly Dane was, very steady and reliable for us. And then, but then J-Mac, we played inside. And then when we started playing him outside, we realized he's a better outside guy. He made some really tough contested catches late in that season. And so I think, once again, like I talked about with the offensive lineman that we needed to bring back, it started with J-Mac too, because he played so good late. And again, he has a ton of experience. So bringing him back, you got Fred back. We brought in J.J. Hester, from Oklahoma, that has some really good upside. That's a tall guy that could really run, that needs to produce for us. You bring in Stiletto, that's played a lot of football, especially when healthy, from Clemson. Kendrick Law, that gives us a strength and a build of a receiver that I haven't had. A ball in hand guy that's extremely strong and explosive. I like what we've added there. David Washington was a guy late last year that we felt like, was going to be a good football player.
You in terms of a coaching staff, the fans tend to say they see a position struggle and then they put it on that position coach. There's been a lot of talk about, as we said, the offensive line, but also other positions. How did you kind of kept a lot of your staff together. How do you feel like, do you understand fans' criticisms about that, or do you think it's not really fair to say the offensive line coach?
I don't, myself, I don't mean to be oblivious to this because I do talk to you. I talk to media. Like, I understand the gist of it, and my head's not in the sand. I don't listen to all that. I can't, right? You know what I mean? I can't. But I will say this: there's, I understand the frustration. Heck, I was frustrated when Eric left the first time. And he and I go back. I could tell you this: there's not a coach that I've ever had that I take more calls for. The guy could go anywhere he wants at any time. And he knows the last time, and he decided to go work with Nick, and and I understand that, and it hurt us though. You know what I mean? The continuity. He knows that. When he came back, we had those discussions, and both professionally and personally, about the responsibility and what we need, and the consistency and the continuity that I need. He understood that, embraced that. He's taken those bullets. He's come back. He just recruited as good as anybody I've ever had.
You all did get a ton of guys. I guess what I'm saying.
Now listen to me on this. In his defense, I'm not, I'll defend any of my guys if I believe in it. But he's a guy that's on the treadmill at 5:30, 6 a.m. every day, texting 25 recruits. All day, every day, working his butt off, and can literally, I don't need to start naming names, but like the biggest of the big in our profession, all called to hire him this offseason. Every one of them.
So you feel confident in that,
and his ability, yes, and his recruiting and his coaching and all of it, and he's a tireless worker. He's relentless. He's tough as nails. Believe me, yes, the inconsistency, the continuity has hurt us. Yes, he was a part of that. But that, again, that's the side of it. We accept it. We know it. Now it's about what are we going to do moving forward, right?
When you look at your offense and defense, just philosophy, big picture, is there anything you want to change from what you had last year? I remember after Liam left, you said, we want to try to run the ball more, get back to some of that, and I think you did some of that last year. Do you see anything going into this year where you're like, okay, I want to see us move in this direction from a philosophy standpoint?
I think just getting better at all things we did, right? Last year, again, getting back to some of the criticism, when we got into it a little bit, that it's hard to get into everything as much as we need to. But when we talked about O-line issues early, in the season, and we identified that, it's kind of like package some things to what you can do, right? We have to try to win games. I think we've done a decent job over the years with that, right? Not always perfect. I'm not trying to pat myself, but it's like adapt to what you can do. And that goes into the factoring of whether you go for it on 4th and 10 or not, and who you're playing. Can you get it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but I think offensively, defensively, special teams continue to build on the good things we're doing, and then we situational football last year, again, not very good at times. In let's look at critical moments, some short yardage scenarios that really hurt us. That I have to take responsibility. That is going to be addressed in the spring. Those
there were a lot of like 3rd and 4th and 1. Yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah. Let me finish with this because this is I think this is probably the $64,000 question.
Mm-hmm.
There are. When I talk to average UK fans, here's exactly what they say to me, most of them, about Mark Stoops. And he has been amazing in what he's done here. He did stuff I never thought we could do at Kentucky, right? Like he recruited at a level that we didn't think. He and Vince brought in players that we didn't think. We had these 10-win seasons. I didn't know if we'd ever do that. All these bowl games in a row, et cetera. And then they'll say, so he's done a great job, period. Next sentence. I am worried, though, about the future. How do I know he's going to be ready for this next era? How do I know this next year is going to be better than the last couple? If you were to hear that and you were to try to give a message to the fan base as why they should still be excited and pumped up for the future of UK football, what would you say?
Well, I would say, number one, I hear them and I accept, the criticisms 100%. I'm not so hard-headed where, I'm not gonna try to embrace any challenge, any obstacle to get better. You could take this or leave it, Matt. And I've never been, as motivated as I am right now. No, if you know anything about me, I do not like an ass kicking. Mm-hmm. And we didn't play to our best last year. And, I could guarantee you, since that season was over, when we lost on Saturday against Louisville, our butts were in that office on Sunday and have not stopped since. We're going to attack this thing. We have to put the pieces together. We have to strategically, get better and put them in a position to be successful. But it came with building a roster. That was the first thing I had to do. We've done that. Then it comes with absolutely demanding excellence from them and leaning on them 24/7 in a way. You know what I mean? In a very positive manner. But, in keeping them accountable and making sure, they have the leadership qualities that it takes to be successful, to stay united through challenges, because there's going to be obstacles. When you play in our league, you're going to hit adversity. And how do you handle that? And do you have the roster? Do you have the depth? Do you have, the preparation that it takes? We're leaving no stone unturned. We're working our tail off. I love this place. I've been here 12 years, going on 13, and I promise you, I'll be honest with you. I've never, I'm emotional right now talking about it, because my ass wants to get back to the office, get to work, and make this team better. That's what I could guarantee you. And I could guarantee you that they're going to play with the same level of competitiveness that we always have, the same chip on our shoulder, the same discipline. We're not going to be perfect, but we're going to play hard, and, we're going to do things right.
Mark, thank you very much. I'll let
Yeah.
you get back to your office to go
Yeah.
do that. And good luck with Pro Day today.
Yeah, thank you.
And hope it goes well. Thank you very much
Hey,
for your time.
thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
We're going to
Appreciate
take a
it. Good
break.
talking
We'll be